and I want to start with my first guest. My first guest is a man who's a self-made man. His name is Tony Civitella, or Antonio Civitella. And the building that's going up at 440 State is called Transfinder. It's his business. So we're going to find out what do they do and who is Tony Civitella. Hey, hi, Tony.
Good morning.
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Good. Tell me, you are really a self-made man. Your family were immigrants. They came to. You were an immigrant.
I was.
And you went to RPI, was that it? Or
I went to Schenectady.
Siena. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Didn't give you the wrong college there. And tell me how you started a business like this. And we have a rendering of the building that's up right now. So,
Really, the business was started as an internship. Really, I wanted to make some extra money during college, and I took an opportunity and came downtown Schenectady as an intern. Really on developing some software. That's really my background as a software engineer. And the story ends up being that in the late 80s, I come here as an intern and I end up buying the company at the end.
You did?
So in 2000, I bought the company from one of my biggest mentors in my life, James Forth, and so that was Transfinder.
And what does Transfinder do? Because you think like transportation, maybe?
It's perfect. It's exactly where it started from. Transfinder is really finding the best way for transportation logistics. I started with that segment, of course. We really manage students going to school. We have 1,500 school districts throughout the country.
So you're a national firm?
We're really in Canada, and now we're in the Caribbean. But really started out with how can we bring kids the fastest, quickest, most safest way to school on school buses. So I started with that, but now of course we're trying to take other segments within the K-12 market. Obviously we all know that education is a big deal in this country, and it's one of my goals in my lifetime to make sure that in this country, education, or at least the K-12, we're back in at least top 10 in the world. So I want to affect how we educate kids eventually.
And we got to get them to those schools.
We have to get them there first.
Right.
And get them home.
Safely.
That's right.
Now, when you use Google Maps, how do you do this?
No, actually, Google Maps is a relatively new product, of course, and Google's has changed our lives. It's hard to even walk around and not use your smartphone and Google things, right? Or translate.
It's now a verb, right?
Right, it really is. Google it, right? But I think the maps are just maps. There's a lot of information on maps, but I'm talking about logistics. I actually have intelligence there. But I always tell people, no substitute for humans. We know better way to get from one place to another, especially a safe way. A computer might give you the best way and the fastest way, but sometimes the best is not what you want.
We know that when we use our GPS,
that's right? Well, sometimes these GPS, I feel like we're glued to that thing. It says turn right. Well, you see it right in front of you, but somehow you're listening to this GPS device. You can see the building, just go straight, but turn right. And what do? You turn right.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, keep our intelligence.
Right.
So if you see where you need to go, just go there.
So how do you communicate with the bus drivers? Or how does that? I know I sound like I'm really dumb about this, but it's like, how do you do this?
But remember, we provide software for our school districts, and they use our software for many different things, of course. One of them is build routes. And they build routes, and they somehow, whether it's going to be through email or a route sheet, or sometimes they even give them a device like an iPad, and that's how they give to their drivers how to run the route. Remember, we don't really build the route, we build the software for them to use.
And that must change every year because you have different students going to the schools, right?
It's interesting
you say that.
They might
be on new development?
Sure. Well, one of our first, we make a lot of outbound calls for sales, and one of the most typical response when we call a prospect, they're saying, "Now our routes don't never change. We don't need your software." And I always wonder, how can that be? The only reason routes don't change if kids never graduate or nobody ever moves.
Yeah.
And really,
and we know that is not true.
That's not true. So kids do move around, and of course parents move to different neighborhoods, and of course we graduate. We go from elementary to middle school, and then of course back into high school. So things do change. But I always promote, you want to make your changes, but minimal impact community. You hate to have your route or your driver picking you up at 7 a.m. and all of a sudden we add one kid. Now from your 7 a.m. you're being picked up at 6:30.
Yeah.
Well, that stinks. Or worst, 7:30 p.m. and you're heading out of your house to get to work at 7:05, 7:10, which is perfect for the window. And all of a sudden, the transportation department, they're so smart in that department, they just change the route on you. And so, is it really worth the pain? So this is where software and computers and humans, we really have to still use our brain.
Well, it's incredible to know that we have a business that's a national business right here that a lot of people did not know who it is. Now, who is Tony Civitella? We're going to look at photos.
Going to look at some photos. Well,
You got them right there.
that's the team there. It's actually, we had a grand opening, an announcement for 440 State Street. And by the way, that's an older picture at that point. There's been a couple designs. But really, I really believe that in order for a successful company, it just can't just be me, right? That's the 440 State Street. It can't just be what I think and my goals. I have to have the right people on staff to really, I have a vision. They have to help me accomplish those goals. And
How many employees do you have? Oh, this
right
looks like
now,
your newest
70.
employee there.
Well, that's it's my father and my son and myself. And it's one of my best pictures. I only have few pictures of my father and my son and myself like that, and I cherish that.
That's a great photo.
Well, we did a huge marketing push the past couple of years on mobile device, so we're going in the right direction. I think, the PCs really have changed our lives, but I really believe that in the next few years, the mobile devices are going to be even bigger.
Yeah, I know.
So that's something that we
incredible.
did. Again, back to the team, I think I'm very fortunate that I have the right people on the staff that have the same goals as I do. We're very competitive. We care a lot about each other, and we always say, you take care of each other
Having
first.
a good team is so important.
Very important.
Now, when Ray Gillen was on a couple weeks ago and he spoke very highly of you and Transfinder, he said, I think they've outgrown their building. Was that true? Is that possible? You haven't been in there yet and you've outgrown it?
Well, that's really why we've already made some changes to the design from the original design to now. Right now, that building could house up to 125 people, but I tell you, 125 is going to be very tight. We're at 70. I think we could probably get another 20 in that building, and it really will be outgrown.
Okay.
But at this point, we're a really international company. I see us have offices throughout the world eventually. But it's going to be our headquarters. Schenectady is really home.
Now, you got to realize that Tony came to this country when he's 9 years old.
That's right.
And what did your dad do? What was he, a big mogul? Business mogul?
My father was a dreamer. My father wanted always the best thing for his family, and that was really why him and my mom moved here into this country. They want to make sure that his son and his daughter had the best education, and really there was nothing around them that was going to hold them back, and that's really what he wanted. He didn't have great jobs, but I think he was extremely successful based on the jobs he had, and he had many jobs, and some jobs didn't last as long as they should. Some of those jobs lasted a year or 2 years, but whatever he did, he just got back on and got
back on the horse and kept going.
But
right?
he made sure, get your education.
Mm-hmm. And he knew that education was important for his son.
And it still is.
Do you have any siblings?
I have my sister.
Okay.
So
she lives in this here?
She lives right next door to me.
Oh, how nice. That's
Yes.
the way all the Italians
Right.
did it. Right?
Well, my father, again, I'm very fortunate. My father bought some property in Gillen a few years ago, actually about 20 years ago, and we all built a house near each other.
Oh, nice.
It's very important. Family is extremely important.
Extremely important. So you, 9 years old, you come to this country. Did you speak the language?
None. Zero.
Yeah, I know. That's how my mom was.
Right.
She came here.
And I tell you that
She was 10 years old and didn't speak, yeah.
And it's still tough. My belief is that you want to still continue speaking in Italian, at least.
Oh, you got to
and
maintain
we do,
your
and
language.
I'm fortunate my wife also speaks Italian, and my son.
Is he learning a little bit?
He's learning a lot, actually.
Oh,
Some
wonderful.
things I'm surprised. And my mom, of course, and my mother-in-law, they both speak Italian.
So you'll have a bilingual. Your child will be bilingual.
I
Not
think
that
so.
you're bilingual, but I mean your
think so.
child will be.
I think actually it's very important. When we talk about education, bilingual is not enough. You want to have as many languages as possible.
Yeah.
We're really a global society at this point, so learn as many languages as possible. And when you start learning more other languages, you realize there's a lot of similarities.
I've heard that
There really
from
are
people who
similarities.
that know like 5 or 6 languages. They say, oh yeah, I can hook on. There's hooks that I get to make this all work.
And I also believe that it makes your brain think different when you
Yeah.
speak different languages. It's really why I went into software engineering. Believe it or not, it's a language. I actually have other
It is a
languages.
language. Yeah, yeah.
And I know many other languages and different coding, of course, languages.
Yeah, COBOL and Fortran. They
Those
don't
things.
use those anymore,
No,
do
not
they?
too much, but
Yeah.
but those are foundations, of course.
Yeah. I have to ask you, what are you thinking?
What am I thinking?
No, what do you think in? Do you think in English or do you think in Italian?
Very good question. Wow, I think in English.
Do you? Okay.
Yes.
Because I talk to people, and they say, well, I always think in, like one person I know, I always think in German.
But I
It's
count.
like,
but I
he
count
speaks
Italian.
English, yeah.
I think in English, but I count in Italian.
You count?
If I have to count things in silence, I would do it in Italian. For some reason, I'm not sure why.
You didn't even know I was going to ask that
Ah,
question. did you?
wow, that was a curveball right there. Very good question.
We've been talking with Tony Civitella, because your name ends in an A. And we've been learning a little bit more about Transfinder. So when you drive by that building, you'll know what's behind that building is a lot of software engineers doing a lot of work to make our schools and school runs safer, right?
That's right.
And now we found out he's an international, and this is the first I've heard of that. So this is really cool. They're up in Canada and in the Caribbean. Tony, it's been a pleasure to meet you and to learn a
Thank
little
you.
bit more about you.
Thank
I
you.
wish you and your family just lots of hugs.
Thank you.
Good.
And thank you for having me here.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Thank you.